Hello, YouTube audience. Welcome back to Movies I Watched in 2025, the YouTube series where I try to make sense of the movies that I watch. This time we're talking about May, where I watched a lot of movies. I found some movies, I rewatched some movies, I watched some new movies, I watched some old movies, I watched movies. I fucking love movies, and they love me too.
Nothing else could love me. Not even... especially not me.
Tonight's the night where I talk about movies, and it's gonna happen again and again. Has to happen. Do you guys ever think that there might be more to life than watching movies?
Man, what the fuck is you talking about? What the fuck was that? I'm sorry.
The first movie that I watched in May is Zombie 3. I mean, Zombie Flesh Eaters 2. Now you're probably asking your screen right now, how is this movie simultaneously the third and the second movie in a franchise? And my response to that is, why are you talking to your screen? What, do you have autism? But in order to answer your question, we have to go all the way back to 1968, when George A. Romero released a horror classic called Night of the Living Dead. This is the movie that defined modern zombies as we know them today. Without this movie, there would be no The Walking Dead, there would be no The Last of Us, there would be no 28 Days Later. This movie was the start of something big. The zombie craze. It's free on YouTube, so check it out. Afterwards, Romero went on to make some other really great movies, like the original The Crazies, which is kind of like a zombie movie, but it's also not. But eventually, Romero would come back to zombies with Dawn of the Dead. Now you're probably wondering, why is this movie called Dawn of the Dead and not Dawn of the Living Dead? Well, that's because Romero didn't own the rights, so he just called it Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead, I would say, is my favorite movie of all time. I fucking love this movie. I can put it on at any time, and I can enjoy it. And when this movie was made, legendary Giallo filmmaker Dario Argento asked Romero if he could make an Italian cut of the movie. And he did. And that Italian cut of Dawn of the Dead is called Zombie. And I would actually say it's the best cut of the movie. It's on YouTube for free, so check it out. But now there's two different versions of Dawn of the Dead. There's Dawn of the Dead and there's Zombie. And a few years later, Lucio Fulci would make a sequel to Zombie called Zombie 2, which is the movie where a zombie fights a shark. But of course, since most of the world knew Zombie as Dawn of the Dead, they had to change the title when releasing it in other parts of the world. So they changed the title to Zombie Flesh Eaters. Flash forward to 1985, where George A. Romero would make his third zombie movie, called Day of the Dead, which I think is a very underappreciated zombie movie. I fucking love the movie, it's great. I think it's awesome. You should watch it. Watch it. It's awesome. Watch it. It's awesome. Watch it. It's awesome. But also in 1985, there was another movie being released, another zombie movie, called Return of the Living Dead. This movie was made by the people who still own the rights to the original Living Dead title. It has nothing to do with the original Night of the Living Dead. It's its own thing, but it's also pretty good. You should watch it, it's awesome. So then 3 years later, Zombie 3 comes out. And of course, since Zombie 2 technically doesn't exist in the States, they had to call it Zombie Flesh Eaters 2. But I'm just gonna call it Zombie 3. Now you're probably wondering, why did you just go on this giant spiel about all of these movies when you could have just explained that in a very simple 1-minute time frame? And my answer to that is, fuck you. But also, Zombie 3 rips off every single movie I just mentioned. This movie is like if Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, The Crazies, Zombie 2, and Return of the Living Dead had a giant orgy, and somehow they made a child out of it. It's like the son of 1,000 maniacs, but for movies. And then they disowned that child. And then Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds came around and adopted it. And then Zombie 3 grew up to be Zombie Flesh Eaters 2. Now Zombie 3 was directed by Lucio Fulci, the director who made Zombie 2. Except Lucio Fulci left the project before it was finished. Some reports say that he was sick, but I also read something that said that he didn't like the script, and the studio didn't allow him to make changes to the script. So who knows what happened? All I know is that some of this movie is directed by Lucio Fulci, and the rest of it is directed by two Italian guys I don't know. And it really shows. There are certain parts of this movie that are really fun, really awesome, but there's also other parts of this movie that feel like a fucking trauma movie, if it wasn't self-aware. Specifically, all of the scientist versus army stuff in this movie, which all feels like a cheap imitation of Day of the Dead.
You got a better idea? Yeah, of course. We are already working on studying an antidote for what, in my belief...
The writing in this movie is almost hilariously frustrating how bad it is. The beginning of the movie starts with a bunch of people trying to steal the zombie virus from the scientists. And it is so fucking awkward.
Professor Mulder, are you alright? Yes, get after that man! Get in the helicopter, after him!
Like, he's literally right there, just fucking shoot him. And then of course that leads to the zombie virus being spread, because they burn the zombie body that they find, and then the virus toxins goes into the atmosphere, affecting a bunch of birds, turning them into zombie birds, which honestly is a pretty fun idea. I mean, other than ripping off Return of the Living Dead, the idea of zombie animals is kind of awesome. And I'm surprised that I have not seen a movie do that yet. But of course, the birds attack our main characters of the movie, and then later on they go to a hotel that looks very similar to the hotel from the beginning of the movie, but it isn't the same hotel, it's like a different hotel. It's like run down for some reason. It doesn't matter. The point is, they find some guns, and then one of the characters is like,
"We found a crate of weapons by the looks of it."
Great, we'll need them.
need them for what? All you've encountered so far is zombie birds. You don't even know if they're zombies yet. What do you need those guns for? The birds? You're gonna shoot the birds with fucking assault rifles? What are you, fucking nuts? These characters clearly lack trigger discipline. But then there's also another scene where two other characters go to a gas station, like right after the zombie stuff starts. And when they go into the gas station, they find a zombie that's like chained up with a machete. And then he starts going crazy with the machete trying to kill the girl. And my question is, where the fuck did the zombie come from? The zombie virus just started, and we know where it started. It started nowhere near this fucking gas station. But somehow there's already a zombie in there? Is this an unrelated zombie that was just sitting there waiting? Not to mention, what are the zombies even trying to do in this movie? They say the zombies are out to eat the flesh just like normal zombies, but why do they keep pushing people? How does that help them eat the people? All of these questions were ruining my movie experience, so I had to break my sobriety and smoke a joint, just so I can relax and enjoy the movie.
I take a toke on a joint every now and then, and once in a while I like to piss on a bush. Am I gonna go to hell for that?
No, not for so little.
And then of course the ending of this movie simultaneously rips off the ending to Night of the Living Dead and also Dawn of the Dead, which just feels like a giant punchline on the joke that is this movie. This whole movie feels like it shouldn't exist. It feels like it should have been locked in the archives. But somehow I watched it, and honestly, I don't know if I liked it or not. Because this is the thing. Yes, this movie is so outwardly bad that you can't help but laugh at it, but at the same time, there was some genuinely well-executed scenes in this movie. Really good special effects with a lot of awesome gore, pretty decent and fun music.
This Blue Arts music's great, huh?
Yeah, making me horny.
Some cool ideas, even though they're taken from other movies, and just overall, like, a lot of fun, you know? There's a lot of crazy zombie scenes in this movie. Like, obviously, the head jumping out of the freezer.
I bet that fridge is empty too, huh?
And also the pregnancy scene. There is some fun stuff in this movie, but it's just also really dumb. I would compare this movie to something like gas station food. You know that gas station food isn't good for you, and it doesn't really taste that good, but sometimes it hits the right spots. And because it's so cheap, you know you're gonna buy it again. Like, you know you're gonna return to that 7-Eleven and get more of that cheap gas station food. And that's what this movie is. It's cheesy, cheap zombie fun, but it's also really stupid to the point where it feels like the movie is insulting me, insulting my intelligence. And I am not dumb. I'm smart. But I'm gonna give this movie a 2.5 out of 5. And I would recommend it. I think it's I think it's an interesting watch. Kind of like the Ben 10 watch. How did all those aliens get into that small little watch? The next movie that I watched in May is a Japanese horror movie. A Japanese horror classic. I'm talking about Ring. And everyone knows about Ring. Everyone knows about the cursed videotape. Everyone knows about the little girl that jumps out of the TV screen. It's iconic. And the concept surrounding it all is so simple yet so brilliant. Basically, there's a videotape, and 7 days after you watch it, you die. And the movie follows a reporter and her ex-husband as they try to look into the videotape before they die. And I really like this movie. All of my favorite parts in this movie are when the two main characters are looking into this tape. They're watching the tape for themselves, they're trying to look into some archives and some files about it, trying to find out what the hell is going on. Because really, most of this movie is less so a horror movie and more so a mystery, and I really like that. It reminds me of when I was young and I used to go on YouTube looking for scary videos to watch, and then eventually I would come across a supposed cursed video. You know, a video like Obey the Walrus, or that other one where the Mexican guy just stares into the camera for a while. And then after I watched it, I'm like, oh no, am I cursed? Am I gonna die? And the rest of the night, I'm pissing my pants and crying, hoping that Mexican guy isn't gonna show up in my dreams. And that's what this movie feels like. This movie kind of transported me back into that mindset of questioning what I'm watching and hoping that it's not bad for me. That mindset that makes me think that I'm gonna die 7 days after watching the movie. I even got a phone call after the movie, which scared the fuck out of me. And I answered the phone, and it was my DoorDash driver telling me they ran out of Oreo ice cream at the 7-Eleven, and I was pissed. But then 7 days later, I got my Oreo ice cream, and I ate it all in one sitting. I'm fucking fat. And I feel like that's a large part of what this movie is about. Not me being fat, but being about the horrors of what we're watching on a daily basis. Because every day we watch videos on things like YouTube and Instagram Reels and TikTok.
Stay on my P's and my Q's, yeah, stay on my Q's and my P's.
But we never think about where these videos came from, what they mean, is there any spiritual ramifications of them? And this movie kind of puts that to the forefront. I especially like how there's a kid character in this movie, the son of the main character, because I imagine this movie is probably much more scary for parents. Parents that I imagine are really afraid of what their kids may be watching. I have a feeling this movie was probably really influential for early internet horror. Like, this whole movie almost feels like a creepypasta, which I kinda like. I yearn for the days of creepypasta and scary videos. Nowadays, the scariest videos you can find online are people dying in parts of the world that I never want to visit. And that's lame. I want to watch a creepy edited video that makes me think I'm gonna die soon. And overall, it really makes this movie have a really nice, unique, nostalgic feel to it. Especially with the directing, which I think is really good. The whole movie has this really nice, melancholic color palette to it that I really like. And I like that it doesn't overload on too many scares. Most of this movie is really just the two main characters looking into this videotape. There's not many jump scares, and when there is, it's pretty damn creepy. So yeah, I really like the whole idea of the tape. I like seeing these characters look into the tape, even watching the tape. I like how we as an audience gets to see what the tape is, because the tape is pretty damn spooky. I also really like how tape is really sticky and it allows you to stick things onto walls.
What?
But what I don't like is what this movie kind of turns into in like the second half. Don't get me wrong, I like the ending, and I like everything to do with the well in the end. I think them trying to get the water out of the well, that's great. But for some reason, a big part of this movie is the fact that the ex-husband has psychic powers. And I thought that was such a weird choice. Like, you already have a supernatural element of the movie, which is this videotape. Why include a second supernatural thing? It kind of lessens the mystery and wonder out of the initial concept. And honestly, I would have liked this movie a lot more if they kept the idea of this tape being cursed way more vague. Like, if it was more of a question whether this tape is cursed or not, I feel like it would have made the plot a bit more engaging. Like, I think for the most part the directing does a good job at keeping you engaged, but there is a point in this movie where the plot gets a bit like, they go to a beach and then the psychic husband touches some dude and then they get to see into the past to see how all of this ring stuff started. And for a second I thought I was watching an episode of That's So Raven.
娘はどうなった？知らん。静子と一緒にいたはずだ。
The truth is, I don't hire black people.
It kind of feels like at that point in the movie the writers were confused on what to do next. But I will say that they redeem themselves with the ending. The ending not only is a really awesome reveal of what's going on, but it's also a giant plot twist that you don't see coming. And it gives the movie an open ending, and it's awesome. So I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10. But I will warn you that 7 days after watching this movie, and actually 7 days after watching this review, you will die. I lied to you. I did not eat that Oreo ice cream. I died. And now I'm making videos beyond the grave. It's my punishment. My punishment is to watch movies and review them. It's my curse. The next movie that I watched in May is another horror classic, an American horror classic. a monster movie from the 50s. And you gotta think to yourself, what would be the scariest monster for audiences of the 50s? Well, a giant woman, of course. Definitely not arousing in any way. Yes, I'm talking about Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. I watched this. And if I can describe this movie with one word, I would use disappointing. You see the title and the poster, and it's exciting. Holy shit, a 50-foot woman next to a highway, picking up cars? In the city? There's buildings there. That must mean it's in the city, right? Well, actually, this movie takes place in a small town next to the desert. There's no big buildings either. And the 50-foot woman is only in the movie for about 20 minutes. Really fucking disappointing. I wanted to see some upskirt shots. This movie is about a couple, an unhappily married couple. The husband only married the wife for the money, and the husband also cheats on the wife, lying to her about his affairs and transgressions. Meanwhile, the wife is a drunk, and she's a bit hysterical. And you can only assume that she's hysterical because her husband cheats on her. But basically, the movie starts with the wife driving out into the desert, and then she comes across a giant satellite. I mean, they call it a satellite, but it just looks like a giant ball. And inside the ball, there's a giant 30-foot man.
There's a flying satellite and a 30-foot giant a few miles out on 66.
A 30-foot giant?
Then she runs back into town and she's like, "Oh, help me, there's a giant man." And they go into the desert and they can't find this giant ball or man, so they just chop it up to her being hysterical. That old wife, she's hysterical because her husband cheats on her. Literally everyone in the town knows that her husband cheats on her, but they just think she's crazy and no one has a single shred of empathy for her. They actually have more empathy for the husband because they're afraid of what's going to happen when she catches him in the act.
Poor mixed up Mrs. Archer. Feel kind of sorry for her.
Yeah, well, I feel a lot sorrier for her husband if she ever catches him with that honey parka he's got stashed at the hotel. Ooh, what a doll.
Which is just fucking wild, but whatever. But basically, some stuff happens, and eventually the wife and the husband go out into the desert to go find this big man. And eventually they do, and the giant man grabs the woman, and the husband just fucking takes off. He ain't dealing with that shit. But then the woman appears again, and she has radioactivity all over her. And then as the movie goes on, she grows into a giant woman, and then she wreaks havoc for like 20 minutes. And yeah, this movie is just like, I don't know, fucking lame. It's only an hour long, which makes this movie feel like a rejected Twilight Zone episode that could have been condensed into 30 minutes, but they were like, fuck it, we can make it into a 1 hour movie. And overall, it's just kind of lame. Like, that's like really what the movie is. It's disappointing and lame. I guess you could make an argument that it is trying to say something, something about women, something about feminist values, because this movie is kind of about a wife who like gets gaslit by an entire town. No one wants to help her with her fucking husband that cheats on her, and they just want to call her crazy. But then eventually she comes across something that is too big for anyone to ignore. Too big for the husband to gaslight and hide from. Which does seem like a pretty decent idea for a movie. Like, if this movie was made by a different director in like a different time, it probably could have been awesome. But when it comes to this 50s movie, it feels like all the ideas are super half-baked. And honestly, my theory about this movie being about, women being mistreated might be a giant stretch. Maybe the writer didn't even think about that when he was writing it. But that's kind of what it comes off as. Just in a really sloppy way. Overall, the special effects are like pretty hit or miss. Sometimes the special effects are pretty damn good and you can tell that they used like miniatures for the big woman stuff. But then there's also a lot of really weird like transparent stuff where you can literally look through the giant people on screen. There's also some paper mache hands that don't look very good.
Come on, Miss Archer, we gotta get out of here!
This movie might have been a giant missed opportunity. If you want to make a good 50-foot woman movie, you gotta put her in the big city. You gotta put her in like New York or something. And I would give this movie like, I don't know, I'd give it like a 2 out of 5. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world. And like I said, I feel like if this concept was done by someone else, if they really went into the themes of like, mistreatment of women, it could have been a pretty good movie. You know, this could have been like a warrior cry for all the feminists. This movie could have been like, you know, all of the hatred and the mistreatment that women get for years, all culminating to a giant, awesome scene where a giant woman kicks down a building of Wall Street men. Then maybe she like steps on them with like bare feet, like maybe she doesn't have shoes on. The next movie that I watched in May is Southern Comfort. This movie is about a group of National Guardsmen on a military exercise, where they have to trek through the Louisiana Bayou. In the beginning of the movie, they set up all the characters pretty well, showing them making jokes and playing practical pranks with blanks.
Hey, Casper! Knock it off, Ducky! Act like I told you, damn dumb!
One of them even hires some prostitutes so that they can be entertained afterwards.
Nolene and her Bayou Queens. Just a little something for morale.
Really?
And let me add, Sergeant, that these women are expecting some small unit military penetration.
So it's pretty clear that these National Guardsmen, you know, they don't give a fuck about this shit. It's the fucking National Guard. Who the fuck cares about the National Guard? But as they start their exercise, they come across a giant lake with some empty boats next to it. And then they have to decide whether they should take these boats. I mean, the boats don't belong to them, but what's the harm of taking a few boats? So they take the boats, and then they leave a note for whoever owns the boats. And as they're making their way across the lake, they see the owners of the boats, the small group of Cajun hunters. One of the National Guardsmen yells out that they wrote a note for them, but then they realize that they probably don't speak English. And then another National Guardsman decides to play a practical prank on the Cajun hunters with blanks. And in response, the Cajun hunters shoot back with real bullets, shooting the sergeant in his fucking head. Afterwards, the National Guardsman starts freaking out. They jump out of the boats and they end up losing their map and their compass. And then for the rest of the movie, they're lost in the Louisiana Bayou with no sense of direction and little to no bullets, only really having blanks. All while they're being hunted by those Cajun hunters that they stole those boats from.
What the fuck?
And this movie is really damn good. I watched this movie on a whim. I was just looking through Amazon Prime Video and then I came across it and I was like, Southern Comfort. It's free. I might as well watch this. The premise is kind of similar to like Predator, where you have a bunch of soldiers being hunted by some external force. Except when it comes to Predator, it's some dangerous alien who wants to kill people. In Southern Comfort, it's just a bunch of random guys. Which makes this movie really interesting, because in a way, this movie is like a perfect representation of like war. And I imagine it's a good representation of how most wars start. Because this situation that these National Guardsmen find themselves in isn't so black and white. I wouldn't say that the Cajun hunters are entirely in the wrong, but I also wouldn't say that the National Guardsmen are entirely in the wrong. Like, yeah, that National Guardsmen probably shouldn't have shot those blanks at those hunters, but why does the whole group have to be punished for that fucking idiot's mistake?
Look, there's only a goddamn joke. The only blanks. Forget it. Forget it? Shit. This moron gets somebody killed and you say forget it?
Yeah, I got something for you boys. Remember, Stucky wasn't the one that shot Poole.
And the Cajun hunters, they only shot back because they thought they were getting shot at, even though they weren't. And the whole conflict of the movie is kind of petty, and is started by a bunch of misunderstandings, and the National Guard believing they have some sort of superiority over civilians. Even though they say in the beginning of the movie, civilian in peace, soldier in combat, or some shit like that.
Civilian in peace, soldier in war. I am God.
So I really like how murky and gray the situation is. And I like how the setting kind of reflects that in a pretty genius way. Because this movie being set in the Louisiana Bayou makes the whole movie look really interesting. There are some areas that they go to in this movie that look kind of hellish. And of course there's an obvious comparison to like Vietnam, you know. All of the characters are also really great in this movie. It's almost like every character has a differing opinion about what's going on.
Spencer? Yeah? I want to know what the fuck's going on here.
I get sent out on some bullshit military exercise, and all of a sudden guys start coming at us from out of the fucking trees. Now, I'll ask you again, what the hell is going on here?
I'm just a city boy.
And I really like how the movie goes from like a military movie to kind of like a horror movie near the end. Because like the last 30 minutes of this movie does a really good job at creating a lot of suspense and keeping you on your toes. The movie does a really good job at putting you in the shoes of these National Guardsmen, making the entire movie really engaging. I'd definitely recommend it. I would give it a 4 out of 5.
Hey, how can you guys play cards with Sergeant Full Line dead over there?
You got another idea about what we should be doing?
Just don't seem right.
Fool doesn't care, he's dead.
The next movie that I watched in May is a wholesome Russian movie. It's called A Visitor to a Museum. This movie is a heartwarming tale about a man trying to visit a museum, and on the way he makes a lot of friends, finding his faith in God, and living happily ever after. I'm just fucking with you. This is one of the most depressing movies I've ever seen. This movie takes place in a post-apocalyptic future where the Earth's environment is ruined, filled with trash. And in this post-apocalyptic future, there's two types of people left. There's normal people, and there's the degenerates. The normal people are people who don't care about the Earth's decaying state, and instead they try to enjoy their time with drinking, partying, watching TV, while the degenerates are very spiritual, religious people with mental and physical ailments who care about the Earth and God, leaving them with a lot of mental anguish. Now, the main character of this movie is kind of mysterious. He's listed as the Visitor, that's his name, but the Visitor is trying to visit a museum that's underwater, that's only accessible during a low tide, which means that he has to wait. And as he waits, he spectates amongst the people and slowly understands the degenerates and their faith. And there is a lot of shit going on in this movie. If I could describe this movie, I would say it's very bleak, very daunting. There's a lot of stuff that the movie is trying to communicate, clearly trying to say a lot about religion, the environment, the human ego. And I think it makes the movie a little bit challenging, especially in the second half, where the movie goes completely off the rails. But after I watched this movie, as time went on, I would think back to it pretty fondly. And while thinking about it and thinking about what the movie is about, I would come to a lot of realizations and ideas. In a way, this movie is a really great piece of art. The type of art that makes you think, you know? It's a thinking man's movie. The whole movie looks incredible. The directing, I think, is like really timeless. There's a lot of fantastic shots in this movie, a really great color palette to it all. There's a lot of really awesome dream sequences that are really interesting. And just like the overall imagery is like super captivating, which really pushes forward the story in a way that doesn't make it feel stale. When it comes to the story and everything going on in this movie, I feel like this movie is about a future where man has done irreversible damage to the planet, to the point where God has abandoned it. And then I think the whole movie kind of shows how people react to that crushing reality. This movie does a really good job at showing you the different types of people who exist in this post-apocalyptic future. Every scene with one of the degenerates is like so fucking depressing and like uncomfortable, because really the whole time the degenerates are like crying and scared about God and how the planet is, to the point where they even pray for God to just end it all for them, just take them out of here.
Какие слова?
Выпусти меня отсюда! Много раз надо говорить.
Что значит отсюда? Откуда отсюда? Из резервации, что ли?
And then when it comes to the normal people, almost all of them are assholes. They really don't care about how fucked up the planet is, and now they're just trying to distract themselves with like pleasures of the flesh, you know? Almost trying to put themselves into their own worlds to escape the real world. And a large part of their ego and their sense of self is the fact that they feel superior to the degenerates. Because since the normal people don't have deformities like the degenerates, they just chalk up everything the degenerate says as bullshit. Even though most of the time what the degenerates are saying actually makes a lot of sense.
Не свалку, а материальные ценности мира. В чем же была ошибка? Ну, вспомнил?
Человек забыл себя.
There's even a point in the movie where the Visitor starts acting like one of the normal people. And it's all because he realizes that, hey, life sucks, but at least I'm not a degenerate. Those guys seem fucked up. But if in order to feel good about yourself and your life, you have to compare yourself to people that you consider lesser than you, then how good really is your life? And how long is that comparison gonna last until you realize it's bullshit? When it comes to the Visitor, not that long. And as soon as he realizes it's all bullshit and there is probably a god, he starts having a lot of mental anguish. And then the rest of the movie is a lot of screaming while walking around. The whole time, the movie looking amazing, by the way. I also really like how in the beginning of the movie, the main character looks at the camera and says, "Что тебе от меня?" It's basically the movie confronting the viewer for trying to distract themselves with the movie, which I think is fucking hilarious, because I think that's like the mission statement for this movie. It's a film that refuses to let yourself get distracted by it, almost serving as a mirror for what the planet may turn into. I mean, this movie, there's a lot of shit going on in it, and I'm pretty sure that I'm probably wrong about a lot of it, because I'm fucking stupid. I mean, no, I'm not stupid. I'm not dumb. I'm smart. But I think that's the great thing about a movie like this. It's a movie that sticks with you and almost requires you to think about it afterwards, giving you a lot of ideas about, you know, society and faith and religion and all of this type of stuff. Now, with that all said, I would not watch this movie again. The direction is great, the whole movie looks great, and I really love a lot of scenes in this movie. But it's also so fucking depressing and bleak that I would never want to watch it again. This is definitely like a one and done type of watch. So I think I'd give this movie like a 4.5 out of 5, a 9 out of 10. I would say to check it out, but I feel like the movie would rather me say, don't watch movies, focus on your dreams, don't give a fuck about what other people think.
And keep God in your life, fuck nigga. Do it!
The next movie that I watched in May is a personal favorite of mine. It's a Korean movie called A Bittersweet Life. I don't know why I'm talking about a bunch of foreign movies on this video, but you know, it happens. This movie is from director Kim Ji-woon, who made another really great Korean movie called I Saw the Devil. And I Saw the Devil is actually pretty great. That movie is pretty awesome. I would also recommend that movie. And actually, both movies have the same main actor, a guy by the name of Lee Byung-hun, who you may recognize from Squid Games. He was in Squid Games. And I remember watching Squid Games for the first time and seeing him pop out of nowhere. And I was like, oh shit, that's that one guy. That one Asian guy that I've seen a few times. But when it comes to A Bittersweet Life, I saw this movie all the way back in middle school. Back when I was a pretty big anime fan. I just watched Death Note for the first time and it blew my fucking mind. So then I was like, oh man, those Asians, they make good stuff. I should check out some more Asian stuff. And then I watched A Bittersweet Life. And I absolutely loved it. This was like one of my favorite movies back then. I thought it was the best foreign movie I've ever seen. The movie is a gangster movie about a boss's right-hand man named Sun Woo. And basically the boss asks Sun Woo to look after his very young girlfriend while he's away. And Sun Woo, being the good little henchman he is, does it. But as he watches over his boss's very young girlfriend, he starts to catch feelings for her, which of course leaves him in a lot of trouble. And still to this day, I really like this movie. It might be just because of, you know, personal resonance or whatever the fuck, but I really did enjoy this movie rewatching it. It's still as good as I remember. This movie is like a drama action comedy, and I think it's directed really well. Everything from the action scenes to some of the more mundane scenes are all very well directed, really well shot. This movie feels like a movie, goddammit. And I can tell that the director probably took a little bit of influence from Quentin Tarantino, especially in a lot of the action scenes and some of the dialogue. This feels like a Korean Tarantino movie, and it's fantastic. The action scenes in this movie are amazing. You know, those Asian guys, they know how to make good action movies. There is specifically one action scene in this movie that I would call one of my favorite action scenes in all of film. Everything from the fighting to the music and the way it's all shot, it's perfect. And also, this movie is pretty damn funny, too. There's a lot of plot points in this movie that almost feel like a joke. And I think it's because the movie does have a level of self-awareness about itself that's pretty cool. But at the same time, all of the serious stuff is so sincere and genuinely gripping with how great the performances are. Like all of the scenes where Sun Woo is slowly falling in love with the boss's very young girlfriend. It's all so well directed, and there's also a lot of really great emotion put into it. But at the same time, there's a lot of gangster stuff and a lot of crime stuff in this movie that is pretty damn funny. Like, there's a whole scene where Sun Woo is trying to buy a gun, which of course, you know, you can't have a gun in Korea. I think that's not allowed. I don't know. You know, here in America, we can have guns because we're fucking awesome. But like European countries and Asian countries, you know, they don't have guns. I don't think they do. I don't think they can have guns. I think they have knives and poles and bats. Those fucking losers. Anyway, there's a whole scene where Sun Woo is trying to get a gun, and that whole scene is really funny. There's a whole part where Sun Woo has to reassemble a gun in order to like save himself. It's awesome.
아, 손님이 오셨구만. 그 물건 저 심으러 만들어 준 거 말이야. 에?
And honestly, the plot of this movie is kind of similar to Drive. Like, this movie, dare I say, it's a literally me movie. It's a Sigma male grind set movie. It's about a lonely guy who's very silent, but he's also badass, wanting romance so bad, but not being able to obtain it. The classic Sigma problems. And one thing I think is pretty funny and kind of refreshing about this movie is that it doesn't actually spend much time with the romance stuff. The romance stuff happens, and then it moves on from it. Then the rest of the movie is just a bunch of gangster, crime, action stuff. And actually, this movie spends way more time on the relationship between the boss and Sun Woo than Sun Woo and the girl. Almost making this movie feel like a breakup movie between a boss and his henchman. And then of course you have the ending of this movie, which I think is awesome. I love the ending to this movie. I always think back to this ending a lot. Because honestly, the ending can mean kind of whatever you want it to mean. It's kind of vague with what's actually happening, and it makes you rethink the entire movie. So yeah, Bittersweet Life, you know, the directing is great, the action is great, the soundtrack is also pretty great. It has a lot of weird Western influence tracks in it, which is kind of cool. The acting is great. I mean, this whole movie, it's great. It's a great movie. And I think if I didn't have any personal connection with this movie, I would probably give it like a 4 or 4.5 out of 5. But instead, I'm giving it a 5 out of 5 because I don't give a fuck. This movie's based and red-pilled. Or not red-pilled, actually. That gets you canceled. This movie's based and Sigma-pilled. Watch this movie if you're one of the Sigmas. The next movie that I watched in May is Sinners. It's time to talk about Sinners. Sinners had a lot of hype behind it. Everyone was talking about this movie, saying it was one of the best things to come out in years. This movie had a lot of buzz. There was a lot of buzzing going on around this movie.
Buzz. Iron Man is buzzing. Robert Downey Jr. is playing Iron Man. Yeah. Buzz.
Okay, how about celebrity endorsements?
Okay, I like that.
Like, imagine, like, Morgan Freeman.
Let's get somebody white.
The movie is about two twin brothers named Smoke and Stack, and a young blues musician named Sammy. Sammy wants to play the blues, but his preacher father is against it. And Smoke and Stack are both gangsters, who now want to get into running a club. So the brothers and Sammy get some people together and they get the club up and running. And everything's going great. Everyone's having a fun time. All up until Sammy starts playing the blues. The music is so powerful that it destroys time and space or something. And it also gets the attention of a hive-mind group of vampires who want to take the music for themselves. The vampires are like greedy businessmen, corporate executives, white people who want to steal and suck the soul out of black art and redistribute it to the masses. And in my opinion, I think it's a pretty good premise. I just think the execution leaves a lot to be desired. This movie was so fucking hyped up. Like, so many people were talking about this movie, saying that you gotta see it. You gotta see Sinners. And because of that, my expectations were pretty high. I was expecting like a masterpiece, but instead I got just a pretty good movie. For the most part, the movie did look pretty good. It's shot on 2 different aspect ratios, one of them being a super wide aspect ratio, and the other one in IMAX, filling the whole screen. And a lot of the stuff shot on IMAX looks really great, especially like the opening. There's also a few sunset shots that are really awesome, but all of the super wide stuff was just kind of okay. Overall, the directing wasn't really anything special. It looked like a modern movie. And then you gotta talk about the music in this movie. People were saying this movie had incredible music. But here's the problem. I don't like the blues. There are much better black genres than blues, like funk and R&B and New Jack Swing. And even if I did like the blues, I don't like Sammy's voice. I thought his singing voice insisted upon itself.
Somebody take me.
Another thing I thought that was kind of weird about this movie was the tone. The opening does a really good job at setting the movie up with this really serious tone that gets you hyped to see what the fuck is gonna happen. But as the movie goes on, it starts to adopt this Disney blockbuster type of tone. Like a Marvel movie almost, which I thought was really weird. This is a movie about vampires who kill and take your loved ones. And since the themes of the movie are pretty serious, I would think the movie would want to take that seriously. But I guess it would have been less accessible for a mass audience.
Hey. Hey. Yo, smell anything?
No.
I think I shot myself.
But not everything is awful. The acting is pretty good. I think Michael B. Jordan did a really good job at playing two characters. I also think that the vampire dude was pretty good. In fact, most of the vampire stuff is actually pretty awesome. Whenever the vampires are on screen, the soundtrack changes, and sometimes it's pretty epic. Especially near the end. Like the whole third act of this movie with all the vampire stuff is really well done. There's also a lot of really great character moments. There's one great part where Smoke has to sacrifice his love almost, and there's also another really great part with Sammy. He's in the river and he almost gets like baptized by the vampire. So like yeah, I mean this movie, it's alright. It's a pretty good movie. But everyone was saying that this shit was the best thing since sliced bread, and I don't think it was all that in a bag of potato chips. I give Sinners a 7 out of 10.
Kill yourself.
Twin Peaks is an American television show created by Mark Frost and David Lynch. Now, if you're wondering who Mark Frost is, I am too. I think he wrote some TV shows, and I think he also wrote The Fantastic Four, you know, the one with Jessica Alba and Vic Mackey as the Thing. David Lynch, though, is a legendary filmmaker, known for his weird, experimental directing style. And I've only seen 2 movies from David Lynch prior to Twin Peaks. I've seen The Elephant Man, and I've seen Dune. But I've always wanted to get into more of his work, so I figured I might as well try his TV show that he made. Now, Twin Peaks is about a town called Twin Peaks. It starts when the body of a resident washes up to shore. A 17-year-old by the name of Laura Palmer. An FBI agent by the name of Dale Cooper gets sent out to the town to investigate. And throughout the show, you follow Agent Cooper as he tries to find out who killed Laura Palmer. But while that's happening, you're also getting introduced to all of the characters of the town, getting to see all of the skeletons in their closets. And Twin Peaks is a very weird show. On one hand, it's kind of like a soap opera, but sometimes it feels like it's poking fun of the soap opera formula, almost being like a parody. But at other times, it's actually a pretty good soap opera, because it treats all of the emotional weight completely seriously, and all of the characters are really interesting. All of their drama and stuff, it's interesting enough to keep you watching. All while in the background you have this ongoing mystery of who killed Laura Palmer. But also, there's a bunch of really weird sequences in the show. Weird sequences with, like, spiritual, dreamlike entities who spectate over the town or something. There's a midget that talks backwards.
Where we're from, the birds sing a freshly song, and there's always music in the air.
And I started watching Twin Peaks last year, but I stopped halfway through season 2 because the show gets really fucking weird. But I would say that the first 17 episodes are really great. And I say 17 because halfway through season 2, they reveal who killed Laura Palmer. The mystery is complete. We find out who it is, but then afterwards, the show doesn't really know what to do, and it starts to go into a lot of really weird directions. But then this year, I decided to get back into it, and near the end of season 2, it actually started to get pretty interesting again. It started getting pretty awesome. The last episode of the original series actually is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen a TV show do, and it's kind of wild that this show was aired on network television. But my opinion of the show is this. I think for the most part the show is really great. I think the whole show looks awesome. David Lynch didn't direct the whole show, but his style is definitely there throughout. And honestly, I think the look and atmosphere of the whole show really carries it. It's a very comforting show in a way. It has a very warm feeling to it that you can't really find in a lot of other shows. Also, all of the characters are great, and being able to get to know them while they're reacting to the death of Laura Palmer is a really good way to get you invested in all of the characters. And the performances in the show are also really great. The performances are a weird blend of being really realistic while also being a little bit over the top. And because of that, it makes every character super memorable.
Fellas, don't drink that coffee. You'd never guess. There was a fish in the percolator.
The soundtrack is also pretty great. I would actually say that it's probably one of the best soundtracks to a TV show ever. The soundtrack to Twin Peaks is fucking beautiful. Overall, I really like Twin Peaks. I think it's a pretty good show. I just think there's some episodes in season 2 that kind of suck. But this video is about movies. I don't talk about TV shows. So why the fuck am I talking about Twin Peaks? Well, after the finale of the show, David Lynch went on to make a tie-in movie called Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, and I watched that in May. Now, unfortunately, in order to talk about this movie, I do have to spoil Twin Peaks.
Meet me for breakfast, 7 a.m. in the hotel lobby. I know who killed Laura Palmer. No, it can wait till morning.
The person who killed Laura Palmer is her father, Leland Palmer. But at the same time, there's also an evil spirit by the name of Bob, who supposedly possessed Leland and made him kill Laura Palmer. And I have to get that out of the way because Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me is all about Laura Palmer's final days before she dies. And during those final days, that's when she realizes that her abuser has always been her father. And she created Bob as this visual representation so that way she doesn't have to come to terms with that terrible reality. But I guess her creating that representation also manifested it as a real evil spirit.
Seen some strange things, but this is way off the map. I'm having a hard time believing.
Harry, is it easier to believe a man would rape and murder his own daughter? Any more comforting?
No.
Like, after watching this movie, I had much more appreciation for the show. In the TV show, Laura Palmer is never really seen. The only thing you see of her is her body, and the only things you know about her are what the characters say about her. But some way, even before watching Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, I felt like I already knew Laura Palmer. I felt like I already understood the character. Because the show does such a good job at building her up, and it almost feels like her presence is felt throughout the entire show. Almost as if the whole mood and atmosphere of the show is Laura Palmer lingering over it. And I feel like even if you took this show away, this movie still works as like a really gripping, disturbing, heartbreaking story that kind of encapsulates what Twin Peaks is all about. Because one of the first scenes with Laura Palmer is her with Not Donna, and they're talking about what would happen if you were falling in space. And Laura Palmer says that if you were falling in space, you would fall faster and faster.
Then you'd burst into fire, and the angels wouldn't help you.
And that's what this movie is. It's watching this character, Laura Palmer, fall deeper and deeper, becoming more emotionally and mentally broken. And there's a point near the end of the movie where she sees a painting with an angel in it, and the angel fades away from the painting. And at that point in the movie, she truly believes that all of the things that she's done, all of the drugs and sex that she's used to cope with her fucked up life, is too much for her to be forgiven by the angels, making her believe that the angels have abandoned her. And then you get to the ending after her father kills her, and she's sitting there in the red room with Agent Cooper having his hand on her shoulder. And then out of nowhere, an angel comes in, reassuring Laura Palmer that she is forgiven. And I think that is such a beautiful, beautiful ending. It made me tear up a little bit because I think it's very relatable. I feel like a lot of people have gone through a lot of messed up things in their lives, and in order to cope with that, they try to escape into other things, sometimes destructive things. But what I love about Twin Peaks is that it's all about the classic battle between good and evil, between love and hate, between confusion and clarity. And the way to win that battle is with forgiveness, not only for yourself, but also for other people.
I pride myself in taking a punch, and I'll gladly take another because I choose to live my life in the company of Gandhi and King. My concerns are global. I reject absolutely revenge, aggression, and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. I love you, Sheriff Truman.
And that is just simply wonderful.
Albert's path is a strange and difficult one.
Very wholesome. Not wholesome in like a cringe way, but wholesome in like a, oh wow, that touches my cold, barren heart. I also should probably mention the beginning of this movie. I think it's the first 30 or 40 minutes of the movie. It's very funny and entertaining, which I think is needed because the rest of this movie is...
It's no musical comedy, David.
The beginning of the movie shows the FBI agents looking into a case connected to the Laura Palmer case. It's almost like a mini Twin Peaks episode with different characters. David Lynch's character, Gordon Cole, comes back.
You remind me today of a small Mexican chihuahua.
Shows the two FBI agents this weird woman in a red dress. And then on the way to the town they go to, they talk about what it meant.
That really was something with the dancing girl, wasn't it? What exactly did that mean?
I'll explain it to you. Both eyes blinking means trouble higher up. The eye is the local authority. You notice she had one hand in her pocket, which means they're hiding something. Lil was walking in place, which means there's going to be a lot of legwork involved.
And I feel like that whole section is like almost David Lynch poking fun at the audience, showing a mirror to all the fans who try to pick apart all of the deeper meanings behind all the weird stuff. And then, of course, you know, David Bowie comes in, he walks into the office, and then he...
Who do you think this is there?
Suffered some bumps in the old noggin, it fell.
What the hell did he say there, Albert? That's Special Agent Dale Cooper. For God's sakes, Jeffries, where the hell have you been? He's gone! He's gone! Albert, call the front desk!
I've got the front desk now. He was never here.
What the fuck's going on?
So yeah, I think this movie is simply wonderful. It's beautiful. The whole movie looks great. The whole thing has a lot of really great colors to it. There's some shots that look like paintings. The music is also wonderful. And the performances are also fantastic. Cheryl Lee as Laura Palmer is an amazing performance. And Ray Wise as Leland Palmer is awesome. He is so fucking great in this movie. He's insane. So yeah, Twin Peaks. I would give the original show a 4 out of 5. And I would give the movie a 5 out of 5. So yeah, Twin Peaks. I did it. I talked about Twin Peaks.
Oh, Mamsie Dotes and Dozy Dotes and little Lamsy Divey, a kiddly divey too, wouldn't you? Oh, Mamsie Dotes and Dozy Dotes and little Lamsy Divey, a kiddly divey too, wouldn't you? Now if the words sound queer and funny to your ear, a little bit tumble and jivey, say mares eat oats and does eat oats and little lambs eat ivy.
The next movie that I watched in May is William Friedkin's Sorcerer. William Friedkin is the guy who made The Exorcist. Everyone loves The Exorcist, but he also made another movie called To Live and Die in LA, which I watched last year. That movie is pretty amazing. I fucking love that movie. So of course, if I like one movie from a director, maybe I'll like the other ones. And Sorcerer always caught my eye. The poster of this movie looked interesting. You know, it struck on a bridge. How does this have anything to do with witches, warlocks, and sorcerers? But I decided to give it a watch, and this movie is actually pretty fucking awesome. It has nothing to do with magic, but everything to do with trucks and dynamite and the consequences of your actions. The movie follows 4 main characters, each one of them from different backgrounds, but they all end up in the same place. One of them is a hitman, the other one is a political terrorist, there's a French guy who committed fraud, and there's a gangster on the run from a bunch of other gangsters. Basically, all 4 of these guys made a mistake in their past, and now they're hiding from it. They don't want to be caught by the authorities or the gangsters. So they all coincidentally end up at the same place, hiding out in some foreign village in the middle of nowhere. But one day, the oil rig next to the village explodes, causing a huge fire, and the owner of the oil rig needs to find out some way to extinguish the fire. And the only way is a bunch of old dynamite in a cabin somewhere in the jungle, far away from the oil rig. The dynamite is unstable, and at any wrong movement, it can explode. Kablamo. So the owner of the oil rig goes out into the village and then says he needs 4 drivers. And if they can transport the dynamite in 2 trucks all the way over to the oil rig successfully, they get a shit ton of money. And of course, our 4 drivers end up being the main characters. And like I said, this movie is awesome. I like movies where it shows the process of doing something. You know, movies like a Prison Break movie or a heist movie. This movie is about 4 guys who all have the same goal, fixing up some trucks and trying to transport unstable dynamite through a treacherous jungle. The first half of the movie is all build up to the second half. The first half shows you all of the characters' backgrounds, how they fucked up in life, how they ended up at the village, and then it shows the explosion of the oil rig, and also shows the interview process of everyone trying to be a truck, which is actually pretty funny. And then the second half of this movie is all of our characters going through the jungle with trucks full of dynamite, unstable dynamite that will explode. And the stakes are high, man. Everyone is freaking the fuck out. Everything is really suspenseful and fucked. They yell at each other and get mad and everything.
Come on! No!
The whole situation is treated so seriously that it's almost comedic. And I think the movie knows that. Like, this concept is kind of absurd. Especially if you think about it in the way that these are all characters who are trying to hide from a past that can come back at any moment and fuck them. And now they kind of have to do a physical representation of how that feels. Carrying a bunch of dynamite on their back that could explode at any moment. It's funny almost in like an ironic way. In like a darkly comedic, fucked up way. There's a lot of really great scenes in this movie. I specifically really like the opening stuff with the French guy and just how it all goes wrong so horribly. Of course, the audition scene with the trucks is really funny, but the scene that follows it is actually awesome. It's a scene where they all build the trucks, and it's so fucking badass. The second half of this movie is so great. All of the scenes with the trucks are so engaging. They're engaging and they're suspenseful. They come across a lot of obstacles during their route, and it feels like one thing after the other. There's one scene with this bridge.
We're gonna cross that bridge, and you're gonna guide me.
The poster actually features this scene where the trucks have to go on this really rickety bridge, and it's fucking storming out and the weather is outrageous. And that's the thing about this movie, the production value for this movie is insane. I'm pretty sure this movie bombed horribly in theaters, which I'm sure reviewers back then were so fucking ecstatic that this movie bombed. Sorcerer, the movie with the trucks and the bombs, bombed at the box office. What a surprise. But you can tell that this movie has a pretty high budget. There is some scenes in this movie that are just fucking crazy. So many explosions, so many crazy weather sequences. There's a great soundtrack from Tangerine Dream that's really awesome. It really fits with the tone and the mood of the movie. And the performances are also really great. Especially the actor from Jaws. He really plays up the situation enough for you to believe how high stakes this mission is. And yeah, overall, this movie is awesome. I can definitely see myself rewatching this at some point, and I'm gonna give this movie a 9 out of 10.
Vamos.
The next movie that I watched in May is another personal favorite of mine. It's also another foreign movie. I'm talking about The Vanishing, also known as Spoorloos. I found out about this movie last year, and it really stuck with me. So much so that I have seen this movie about 3 to 4 times now. In less than a year, I have seen this movie more times than most other movies that I've seen. And it really stuck with me not just because the directing and the soundtrack and the performances are all really great, but also because the story is really haunting and really got under my skin in a way that not a lot of other movies have. Part of me doesn't even want to talk about this movie. Part of me just wants to say, go watch it. I'm gonna try my best not to spoil it, but this movie is about a couple, Rex and Saska, who are on a road trip through France. But when they stop at a gas station, Saska mysteriously disappears, leaving Rex distraught and confused. But the twist is that the movie switches perspectives to a sociopath named Lamont, who's preparing, practicing, and attempting doing the worst thing he can think of onto someone, and that someone ending up being Saska. You got 2 opposite perspectives focusing on the same disappearance. When it comes to everything going on with Rex, it's really sad and heartbreaking. But when it comes to Lamont, all of his scenes are more funny.
Vous allez à Nîmes?
Oui.
Louis? Je suis avec un copain.
Écoutez, vous êtes des tricheurs, moi pas. J'ai 2 places, et si je me suis arrêté, c'est pour elle et pour elle seule. Donc, Salut.
Which I think makes the movie a bit more horrific. All of the Rex stuff is so sincere and genuinely depressing, so when you switch over to some weirdo doing a bunch of weird shit, it really puts in perspective that some people can just ruin your life, not because of hate or revenge, but because of some sort of sick entertainment for them. And I don't know, I feel like all of the Rex scenes feel so personal, to where it really connects with me every time I watch it, because so much of it is Rex longing for this love, trying to hold on to it as much as he can. In the beginning of the movie, Rex and Sasuke's car runs out of gas inside of this dark tunnel, and Sasuke starts freaking out because she's worried a car is gonna hit them, while Rex doesn't waste any time and he goes out to get some gas. And while he's walking away, Sasuke's yelling his name, screaming for him, and then later Rex tells Sasuke, and then for the rest of the movie, Rex is the one screaming Sasuke's name, as some sort of fucked up karma. He's the one longing for her and yelling for her to come back. Sasuke! Sasuke! And I feel like longing for someone is such a pure and impactful form of love. A very raw form of love. One that really hits the core of the heart. Especially since Rex is not only longing for Sasuke, but he's also longing for just closure. He wants to know what happened to her. And that's why the third act is so great. The first act of the movie is all about the kidnapping, showing the two perspectives. The second act shows the two main characters a few years later, with Rex still looking for Sasuke and Lamont chilling with his family. But then the third act, spoilers, the two characters finally meet, and Rex reluctantly goes with Lamont to finally get closure and to find out what happened. And as they're driving, Lamont keeps going on about his life and his way of thinking and how he got to that way of thinking, talking about fate and predestination.
Comment peut-il être déjà écrit que je ne sauterai pas? De quel droit est-il écrit que je ne sauterai pas? Eh bien, pour contredire ce qui est écrit, il faut sauter.
All while Rex is sitting there like, holy shit dude, just tell me what happened to Sasuke. And some of the stuff that Lamont says about fate and predestination, some of it actually does resonate and it almost feels like wisdom. But at the same time, it could also obviously be manipulation. Because, you know, he's a sociopath. Which makes the ending and the reveal just fucking devastating. Like I said, I'm not gonna spoil it, but the build up to that reveal is so great and is filled with suspense. And I also like how it connects to the beginning of the movie in a pretty nice way. And yeah, I mean, this movie is awesome. What I really love about it is how you can attribute a lot of different ideas to it. Sometimes this movie feels like the dangers of wanting closure. Other times the movie feels like it's about unrequited love. And it also has a lot to do with taking chances and choosing fighting over flight. And I think all of these ideas coincide with each other beautifully, because they're all about love. And that's what this movie feels like. It feels like a love story that gets disrupted by a fucked up sociopath. The only problem I have with it is that the soundtrack is not anywhere online. I don't know if the soundtrack is lost media or whatever, but if it is, I want some of those lost media motherfuckers to look into this. Find this fucking soundtrack. Because right now, the only song I can listen to for this movie is the song from Chili's.
I want my baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back. I want my baby back,
Chili's baby back ribs.
I want my baby back,
Chili's baby back ribs.
barbecue sauce. I want my baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back. I want my baby back,
Chili's baby back ribs.
I want my baby
Chili's baby back ribs. Doo-doo, doo-doo, doo-doo. I want my baby back ribs.
But yeah, great movie. 10 out of 10.
Oof.
The next movie that I watched in May is Final Destination Bloodlines, the newest installment in the Final Destination series. And I actually really like the Final Destination series. I like the premise. The main character has a premonition about some terrible tragedy where everyone dies, including themselves, and then they start freaking out. And that leads them and a few other people to escape the tragedy. But then as the movie goes on, Death gets pissed that they escaped his plans, and he kills every single one of them, one by one, in very convoluted ways. It's like a slasher movie, except the killer is stuff like slippery floors and wrenches and cars The first movie is probably the best one in my opinion. It's definitely the most serious one out of all of them. It's a very melancholic movie actually. It takes its time to let the characters grieve from the tragedy, which you don't really see in all the other movies. The soundtrack is pretty good, and the kills are pretty decent. I think the first one is a really solid horror movie. But then you have the second movie, which I think kinda sucks. I think this is probably the lamest one in the franchise. The kills are lame, the story is lame. The movie tries way too hard to connect itself to the first one, which is just dumb. I don't like that one. I will say though, that the tragedy is pretty awesome. That whole car crash scene is iconic. And then you have the third movie, which I think is pretty decent. This one takes it almost as seriously as the first movie, but also has a lot of over-the-top characters, which is kind of funny. Over-the-top characters that you would see in any other slasher movie. And the kills are also pretty fun. The third one is really solid. But then you have the Final Destination, which I guess was supposed to be the last one, but that didn't really work out well. This movie is a 3D movie, which means it has a lot of really shitty 3D gimmicks. Definitely doesn't top the 3D gimmicks of Friday the 13th Part 3.
Let's share the wealth with those less fortunate up front here, huh?
And people really hate this movie, but I actually kinda like it. I feel like I remember this one the most out of all of them. I watched all of these movies when I was much younger. These were like the only horror movies I could watch that were more funny than scary. I remember getting really uncomfortable from the pool scene. Just seeing the skin tighten up onto his bones is really unsettling to me. I also like how the ending of the movie takes place in a movie theater. Like, yeah, it's pretty cheesy, but I think that's pretty fun.
I was meant to see this movie.
Bye-bye, suckers!
I wouldn't really call it a good movie, but I like it. But then you have Final Destination 5, which I think is definitely in the contender of the best movie in the franchise. The fifth one understands what this franchise is. All of the deaths in the fifth one are much more funny than anything else. They're almost played up like jokes. There's a very long setup with a really funny punchline. There's a lot of really great kills in the fifth one. And also, the ending is awesome. But now it's time to talk about Bloodlines. And is Bloodlines good? Yeah, I actually really liked this movie. I liked it way more than I thought I was going to. Mainly because this movie feels like a Final Destination movie. I was a bit worried that it would feel like more of a generic 2020s horror movie. But instead it had like the same tone as the other movies. All the deaths are pretty fun. Overall it's pretty cool. I also think it's pretty genius the way that they modernized the premise for a 2020s audience. Because this one is all about generational trauma and curses. Because everyone loves to yap about generational trauma nowadays. And I bet those people saw this movie and pissed their pants. Oh my god, this movie is amazing! Basically, the whole idea is that this woman escaped a tragedy via premonition. She saved a bunch of people, but you know, death ain't having that. But she ends up having a child, and then they have a family, creating a whole family tree that shouldn't exist. So now death is coming after the whole family, goddammit. I think it's a pretty smart way to make the premise different enough for the movie to stand on its own. They even add some stuff to the premise, like showing someone who has survived for decades, which is pretty funny.
Stop, don't move. Not until I tell you. Trying to trick me, aren't you?
And I think it's really funny that this franchise is about fate. And the last two movies that I talked about were also about fate. It's like I hit the fate lottery. But this movie is actually pretty funny. I was actually laughing quite a lot in the theaters, especially during the tattoo and piercing parlor. That whole scene was pretty funny. I thought I was actually going to hate that character because he's so clearly supposed to be like a performative male.
It's really funny that I dress like this and give off like tough, like a tough sort of thing going on. And then I cry to Phoebe Bridgers in the shower, and I listen to C Rose and Boy Genius, and the dichotomy is crazy, but
he's actually a pretty good character, and him and his brother who has the peanut allergy both feel like characters who would be in a Final Destination movie. And overall, this movie was just a really solid Final Destination movie. Overall, the directing is alright. It definitely has much more of a cartoony edge than the other ones, but I think it's fine. The CGI was good enough. I like how they didn't play any modern music in the movie, only sticking to the classics. Because I swear to God, if I heard some Sabrina Carpenter, Dua Lipa, Ariana Grande shit in this movie, I would have shot myself. The only thing I didn't like was how they revealed the backstory behind Tony Todd's character. His character was so great in the other movies because you didn't know who he was. You didn't know what he was.
In death, there are no accidents, no coincidences, no mishaps, and no escapes.
But now this movie serves as like the origin story for him. That's dumb. And I really don't have anything else to say. I'm done talking about this movie. I give this movie a 7 out of 10.
Then you can just drop fucking dead.
And now it's finally time for the last movie I watched in May, Brain Damage. I feel like if I talk about any more movies, I'm gonna get brain damage. This movie is about a man named Brian who lives in an apartment with his brother and has a girlfriend. But one day he wakes up from a nap to see an alien demon parasite creature attached to his brain. The creature is called Almer, and he gives Brian a bunch of euphoric brain juices. Brian gets addicted to these euphoric brain juices, but then finds out that Almer is using him to kill people and harvest their brains.
You're a wreck, Brian. You've got to relax. Why don't you put me on your neck and calm down?
No way! It's not gonna happen again!
What is...
Killing people!
Oh, I thought you meant getting high.
And I actually really love this movie. This is exactly the type of movie that I like. I like my movies a little bit sleazy and cheap, a little bit over the top, but has a story that is emotional enough to balance out the sleazy aspects. A story that's interesting to think about and actually has something to say. With a soundtrack that sounds great and matches the movie, with directing that looks fantastic and has a lot of nice colors.
All these colors.
Shut the fuck up, asshole.
And that's what this movie is. This movie is right up my alley. You know, I went into this movie thinking it was going to be some sleazy, trashy 80s horror movie. And that's what it feels like when it first starts, but as the story goes on, it becomes genuinely horrific. And really sad and depressing, because obviously this movie is all about addiction. The Almer is a physical representation of what an addiction is. An alien demon parasite that latches onto you and makes you do things to get the euphoric brain juices. It's played up as a joke at first, but when the character realizes the gravity of the situation, it gets genuinely horrifying. The Almer is a fucking creepy looking creature, and he talks in this very smug, condescending, normal voice, which at first is kind of funny, but then it gets genuinely unsettling.
Give it a few more hours, Brian. But whenever you want the pain to stop, I'll be here.
The movie frames it in a way where the Almer is like Brian's pimp, and throughout the movie he's making Brian his whore. It's really fucked up, and seeing Brian struggle with this addiction, like in the worst way possible, really makes for an emotionally compelling story. A story that's actually kind of relatable, because I mean everyone has their own addictions and vices. Now what addiction is this movie specifically talking about?
Sometimes everything glows with a different kind of light. I can touch an object and listen to the sound of its color.
You're on drugs, right?
You could say it's a metaphor for like a heroin addiction, or maybe it's something more benign like a movie addiction. But personally for me, I think this movie is about a sex and porn addiction. When Brian gets the Almer, the only places he wants to go is his bedroom and the bathroom.
Oh yeah, sure, I'll be right out.
And of course, as the movie goes on, his relationship with his girlfriend becomes ruined. And then of course, the Almer came from like an old couple that lived in the same apartment building, almost as if they used the Almer to spice up their love life. And I mean, the design of the Almer is very phallic, and there's a lot of blatant sexual connotation to this movie. There's a whole scene where Brian goes to a club, and then he's about to get a blowjob, but then instead of his dick coming out, it's the Almer, and the girl starts sucking it like it's a dick. It's pretty funny. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show it, you know, on YouTube, but like, you know, YouTube, this is not a penis. This is a alien demon parasite creature that feeds on brains. Hello? Can you hear me, YouTube? Are you listening? The whole movie looks great, and I think it really treats a lot of the emotional scenes, like, very well. There's a lot of awesome dream sequences in this movie that are really trippy and weird, but are obviously trying to say something, you know? This movie, it's not a dumb movie. This is the smartest movie that has a scene where a woman sucks an alien demon parasite creature like a cock. It genuinely impressed me with how serious it took the movie, especially near the end, where it gets Really fucking sad. And also scary, because the scariest thing that happens in this movie isn't the Almer sucking the brains out of someone, but instead, it's the Almer changing Brian's brain chemistry to the point where he'll do whatever to get that euphoric brain juice. Really great movie. Probably the best movie about addiction that I've ever seen. I haven't seen Requiem for a Dream, but I doubt that movie tops this.
Woo! This is absolutely fucking great!
I'm gonna give this one a 9 out of 10. And that is all of the movies I watched in May. Fucking finally. I'm done with this video.
Oh my god, wow!
This video took me quite a while. Too many movies. I was honestly pretty pissed for most of the time doing it, but now it's all over. I never have to say the next movie I watched in May ever again. At the time of recording this, it's almost Halloween, so treat this as a Halloween special. Happy Halloween. Now all I have to do is pray to the YouTube gods that they don't take down this video. You know, that's the thing about this series. Every time I finish one, it's a giant gamble. It's like Russian roulette. At any moment, YouTube could look at my video and say, "Oh, you used too many movie clips in this," and then take me down. If you're still watching up to this point, then
Drop it. It's over with.